Hi, I'm Danny Redding. I'm the Associate Pastor for Worship Ministries here at First Church. I've got a confession to make. You see, I don't worship God by singing. Now, what's that you say? Actually, those are not my words. But that's the shocking headline of a blog by the author Donald Miller a few years ago that really caught my attention, and that of many others in my profession. Now, since I spend much of my week trying to get ready to help people do just that, to worship God by singing, I was more than a little alarmed when I saw that title. Now, he doesn't spend as much time talking about music and worship as the title suggests, but it certainly provoked a frenzy of responses from many of us who read it. Now, most people took him to task, but I have to admit, I was actually a little relieved. You see, it's nice to hear someone else challenge the idea that music is the entry point to the throne room of God in heaven, a place where worship-leading musicians are charged with taking their congregations every Sunday. Now think about that for a minute. I'm supposed to take people into the presence of Almighty God every Sunday through music? Really? Now, some people apparently think so, and I've even seen it included in a few job descriptions for worship leaders. Right there, along with directing all the choirs, attending church board meetings, and maintaining the music library, it says, "Take us into the presence of Almighty God through the exquisite artistry of music." Here we poor church musicians stand, the link between heaven and earth, between lowly human beings and their Creator. Now, can you see how I felt some relief at the thought that it might not all depend on me? There are, after all, at least some people who connect with God in ways other than musical ones. Now, before you get too alarmed, let me say that I do find myself drawn into experiences of transcendent worship through music. Music, from the majestic to the intimate, is a language beyond words for me. It gives me a vocabulary for expressing worship to God who transcends not only my speech, but my thoughts as well. But having said that, I have to agree with him and admit that music isn't the only way to engage with God in worship. Furthermore, to insist that it is uniquely capable of taking us into God's presence may even be approaching idolatry, something that those of us who grew up attending Sunday school during the week and vacation Bible school every summer know is the ultimate bad thing to do. Now, an idol, at least the kind found in the Bible, is anything that takes the place of God. But also, according to the Bible, the only thing that can link us to God is not a thing or even a song, but it's a person, the person of Jesus Christ. So to say that music or a musician can usher us into the throne room of heaven is bordering on, well, you know. And if it doesn't rise to the level of idolatry, it's still a lot of responsibility to place on music in church services. After all, why just music? I mean, why not other art forms? What about painting and sculpture and drama and maybe even dance? Of course, that's a hard one for those of us who grew up Baptist. Now, admittedly, some attention is given to those other art forms, but the attention is negligible when compared to music. And then what about the sermon? Isn't that worship too? I would think preachers might have something to say about being completely left out of the worship discussion, as if worship is what takes place before the sermon, during which we simply listen quietly until it's time for more music when true worship can resume. Now, I wonder what God does during that sermonic intermission. And I have to admit, I always wince a little bit when people use music and worship as synonyms, as if to say, we'll have some worship, and then we'll get to the sermon. Now, don't get me wrong. While you don't have to sing to worship God, I think you really should. And I certainly hope you do. I love hearing our church sing God's praises when we gather for worship. And I can't wait to hear our sanctuary and our chapel over there filled with those sounds again soon. But I hope you'll think of worship as something that occupies every part of our services. And more than that, I hope you'll see worship as something that spills out of our sanctuary into everything that you and I do, and maybe add some music along the way. So I hope you have a wonderful week, a blessed week, and in the weeks to come. I'll see you again soon.